Right, this weekend, the ANC celebrated its 110th birthday in Limpopo. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the January the 8th statement that traditionally outlines the party's vision for the year, talking about unity and renewal. Analysts have looked at the speech and also the stakes for Ramaphosa as the party enters a new year. His supporters are working to secure him a second term as head of the party, but his opponents reportedly mobilizing to bring him down at the elective conference in December this year. During his welcoming speech, the Limpopo chair of the ANC, Premier Stan Mathabatha, said that Limpopo was endorsing Ramaphosa for a second term. To discuss, we're joined by Professor Steven Friedman, who is director of the Center for the Study of Democracy at the University of Johannesburg. Professor, good to have you with us as always. Let's start with this speech. For those who were busy holidaying this weekend, did it provide a vision to inspire people inside the party and to raise the trust with those outside? We know there's a lot of issues entering this year.
Yeah, thanks, Francis. Look, the statement, and one must always repeat because this tends to get missed very often. This is not a statement by the president. The president just reads it. This is a statement by the National Executive Committee of the ANC. And that's what makes it politically a very interesting statement, because it's very much spurred by the ANC's losses in the local elections last year. And in effect, it's throwing down a gauntlet. It's saying the ANC has to change. And while unity is a good thing in principle, unity doesn't mean agreeing not to change, and unity doesn't mean agreeing with people who refuse to change. So essentially what it is saying is the ANC needs to change. The NEC has accepted that the ANC needs to change. And those who want to resist that will have a fight on their hands. So really what it is promising is an internal battle within the ANC between those who want to make the changes which they believe are necessary to win the 2024 general election, and those who are seen to be getting in the way. But the fact that this is an NEC statement means that this renewal program, this throwing down the gauntlet to those who are seen to be corrupt or not interested in voters, is now official ANC policy.
Well, the NEC, so like you've pointed out, the whole NEC is involved in this. I think there was a suggestion that there were 15 drafts before he made the announcement. And of course, the NEC consists of Cyril Ramaphosa supporters and those who are seen to be part of the RET faction that is against him. What does the statement mean there for the concerns about factionalism within the ANC?
Well, I think as far as factionalism is concerned, in effect, the statement is saying, look, there are people in the ANC who are for change and people who are against change. And the people who are for change are in the majority, and therefore the others will have to change or defy the organization. So that's drawing very stark battle lines. As far as who supports what is concerned, the background to this is that if you look at what was happening last year, the president and his group were winning all the arguments in the NEC. All the NEC decisions, whether it was on the step-aside rule, it was on the commission, or you name it, were those which they favoured. But since the local elections, there's been a question mark. And the question mark is the ANC lost a lot of seats on November the 1st last year. And Mr. Ramaphosa was president when that happened. So the question was, would this create a backlash? Would ANC members and NEC members in particular start saying, look, this president is not winning us votes, we need somebody else who does. This January the 8th statement is signaling at the moment that certainly as far as the NEC is concerned, they believe that the only person who can win back that vote as president of the ANC is Mr. Ramaphosa, and they're therefore getting behind him in that attempt. So that does mean that he's emerged within the ANC reasonably in good shape despite the poor election result last year.
And was the endorsement of Stan Mathabatha important and interesting? There was some speculation at one stage that Limpopo was becoming aligned to the RET faction, or it was becoming bigger in that province. What do you think about that endorsement?
Well, I mean, where that came from was that there are a couple of branches who are seen to be supporting the anti-Ramaphosa faction. But Limpopo remains a very solid Ramaphosa province. So in that sense, the fact that the leadership under ANC chairperson and Premier Stan Mathabatha moved as they did to signal their support for the president wasn't particularly surprising. But it was significant in the sense that it announced the beginning of the presidential campaign because, in effect, nobody believes that Mr. Mathabatha would have made that statement without the president's approval. We will know from past experience that ANC candidates for president don't stand up as American candidates do and say, I'm running for office. But if you persuade your supporters to endorse you, and you don't reject that endorsement, which he hasn't, then you're saying I'm a candidate. So Mr. Ramaphosa is now a candidate in my view. But we have two candidates. The other one also hasn't said that she's in the race, but she clearly is in the race. And that is the tourism minister, Lindiwe Sisulu. And the reason I'm saying that she is a candidate is that she wrote an article in independent newspapers a couple of days ago, which read pretty much like a campaign speech. What she seems to be doing is positioning herself as somebody who's sympathetic to the anti-Ramaphosa faction, but is more electable than they are. So at the moment, I think, without any official announcements, we can pretty much say that the president and Ms. Sisulu are presidential candidates. Yeah. That obviously doesn't mean that there won't be others. There could well be others as the year goes on.
Well, she has reportedly been lobbied by his opponents, but is she popular enough to stand against the president, looking at what happened at the last elective conference?
Well, that's a very good point. I mean, so far the evidence is because she did run, in effect, last time. She didn't do terribly well at all. What she would feel is in her favor is the fact that she didn't have the support of the anti-Ramaphosa faction last time. They were, of course, coalescing around Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. What she is hoping, certainly that's what the article is telling us, is that they will rally around her because they realize, to be direct, that some of the obvious candidates of their faction, like Ace Magashule or Duduzane Zuma, are not electable, whereas she's electable. So that's her great hope. My hunch at the moment, given what has happened in the NEC, is that if we had a presidential election tomorrow within the ANC, Mr. Ramaphosa would win easily. But of course, we've got another 11 months to go, and anything can happen in those 11 months.
Finally, one of the questions being asked between now and that elective conference is what will Ramaphosa do with people who have adverse findings against them? Zweli Mkhize, for example, has stepped down, the former health minister, but he's still on the NEC. He's still part of that very important decision-making body. And what about the people who have findings against them in the Zondo Commission reports that are still to come? Some of the names being mentioned, perhaps Malusi Gigaba, Sebenze Zwane, Nomvulo Mokonyane, because Ramaphosa has been accused of playing nice with everyone, including the former president, Jacob Zuma.
Well, I don't think that's entirely accurate. I mean, we do have a Secretary General of the ANC who's not actually operating as the Secretary General because he's facing charges. It's true that they've faced resistance. But the position at the moment is very clear. If you are charged by a court, you have to step aside. Or at the very least, you have to go to the Integrity Commission and give them a very good reason why you shouldn't step aside. Now, Zweli Mkhize is not yet in that position. He hasn't been charged with anything. If he is charged and nothing is done against him, then it will show that the resistance is too great and that the ANC is not carrying out its commitments in the January the 8th statement. But at the moment, it doesn't stretch, for example, and that would be the Zweli Mkhize case, of acting against people who've been named in reports or investigations, but who don't have formal charges against them. I don't expect that to change. I think that would be the cutoff point for the rest of this year, that it's up to the criminal justice system. If former Minister Mkhize is charged, then it will obviously be a test for the ANC, because it will have to ensure that he relinquishes his ANC positions until he's found innocent, if indeed he is. So there is a clear dividing line at the moment. Obviously, it's important that the ANC be held to its own commitments. But I don't think it's entirely accurate to say that they haven't been acting on those commitments before, because there are a significant number of people who have in fact been forced to step aside, besides Mr. Mahashuba.
All right, a very interesting year again for the party. Thank you very much, political analyst Professor Steven Friedman. We take a short break. Lots more to come.